The Baby Angel Geronimo edition of the KhoodeelaarTV is timed at 19:20 GMT, Saturday, 3rd February 2024. The state of corrupt British media is exposed everywhere. In Saturday's Dirty Digger Rupert Murdoch controlled Times newspaper, there is the magazine, and the magazine contains a piece by the Times' so-called celebrity watch columnist, Caitlin Moran. The state of desperation and emptiness in the minds of these people is exposed in Moran's piece, advertising the fact that when she wears sexy underwear, her husband gets turned on. How the fuck? Why should that be of any interest at all? And the state of racism in the same Times is exposed in the promotion we shall be talking about later, but the promotion in the I newspaper, the weekend edition, of allegedly the books that should be interesting books to read right now includes a plug for the American writer Paul Theroux, writing about the racist George Orwell. Orwell, original name Eric Blair, an ex-Etonian, was a trainee British Empire policeman in Burma. And Theroux doesn't recognize the corrupt influence of empire, the corrupt entity of empire. And he's perpetuating the racist myth. In the subcontinent, Burma was part of the British Empire that included today's Bangladesh, today's India, today's Pakistan. I mean, at any time, those countries constituted and contained more people than the entire population of Western Europe. And yet Paul Theroux doesn't find anything. Paul Theroux doesn't find anything that has been contributed or was capable of being contributed to the world of thought and ideas and analysis by any of the hundreds of millions of people in the subcontinent, either during the so-called empire or in the last nearly 80 years since the British left in 1947. And despite the fact that the remnants of the British Empire evident in India more than in Burma. The English language newspapers publishing the Hindutva mythology favoring Narendra Modi, the war criminal and criminal against humanity. There is no acknowledgement of the corruption, the cruelty, the injustice, the massacres, and the genocidal agenda followed throughout the British Empire. Typified by the massacre on Amritsar in Punjab in 1919. It was about the same time that the British government was sponsoring the Zionist state of Israel. And in the papers today, there is nothing. In the British newspapers today, 3rd of February 2024, there is absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing about what is happening in the world. It's a little England colluding, continuing to collude with the Zionist state of Israel, the Zionist state's genocide, and there is no comment. There is no comment, there is no fact, there is no investigation, there is no comparison between the genocidist attack being perpetrated by the Zionist state of Israel against the people of Palestine, with the Nazis, Holocaust mainly aiming at the Jewish people in Germany, in Poland, in Austria, and there is no reflection in any of the British media about the founding purpose of the United Nations organization, whose founding words actually spell out the purpose of the United Nations as it was intended. That it was being founded to avoid the kind of brutality, the criminality, the violence that the Nazis inflicted and the Nazis caused to the world in the 1940s, 1930s, 1940s. And the I newspaper, which is promoting the Paul Theroux book about George Orwell, calling him the Sahib. The Sahib is an Indian word, it's a Hindu word. It's a Hindi language, Sanskrit based word, Sahib. There is no reference to what is happening in Burma, and there is no acknowledgement of the fact of the genocidist attack on Muslims in Burma in the last decade. No reference to the Muslims forced to flee Burma in 2017 onwards. So the British newspapers don't acknowledge human rights, humanity, of the world outside the Little England. And Little England is being lamented in the reporting of the Irish nationalist Sinn Féin party's member Michelle O'Neill being formally installed as the First Minister of Northern Ireland. They're bemoaning that fact by saying that those who campaigned for Brexit in 2016 didn't appear to realize that Brexit was going to encourage Irish unity, Irish political unity, and disengage the 6 counties of Ireland from the present United Kingdom. But I think subsequent to the Brexit so-called outcome, comments made by the congenital liar Boris Johnson, made by the nasty Nigel Farage and other criminals give the game away. They couldn't care less about the Irish at all, even the Northern Irish part of Ireland, just as they couldn't care less about the needs and the rights and the claims of the people of Scotland, or indeed of the people of Wales. As I said in the last edition of this bulletin, the Grenfell Tower, the truth about the Grenfell Tower that has been revealed during the inquiry into the Grenfell Tower massacre of 2017 can be added as evidence to the huge pile of evidence of the corrupt state of Britain. Because the Grenfell Tower massacre was allowed to happen as people were burnt during several hours, while the London Fire Brigade and the emergency other agencies in the United Kingdom neglected to do what was physically absolutely possible. That is to say, the Grenfell Fire. And if they had brought the water by special helicopters, military aircraft, most of the people who have been massacred would have survived. It was a decision, whether the decision was made by the London Fire Brigade and other emergency agencies consulting formally, has not been disclosed, but the de facto evidence shows that they behaved in identical manner. That is to say, allow the fire to destroy the lives of these people who could have been saved. Now, they would not have done that if the people in the building, the Grenfell Towers, were councillors, members of parliament, members of the UK government. It was not a coincidence that the majority of the people who died in the Grenfell Tower massacre came from various racial, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. And not one of the people who died was a councillor, a member of parliament, or a member of the government. It's not a secret. It's an open fact, openly known fact that the Grenfell Tower massacre was allowed to happen. And it was allowed to happen in the knowledge, open knowledge, that the people who are going to be massacred were treated as being less important than they would have been had they been members of councils, members of parliament, or members of government. So the standard of rights and respect for life applied to the people who have been massacred on the Grenfell Tower can be compared to the standard of contempt applied to the baby angel Geronimo. Baby angel Geronimo was targeted. Baby angel Geronimo was targeted by the criminals at DEFRA, despite the fact that there was no evidence, there is no evidence, there cannot be any evidence ever that baby angel Geronimo was other than perfectly healthy, perfectly free from all identifiable known germs, infections. And the other fact is that his human mom, Helen MacDonald in South Gloucestershire, kept baby angel Geronimo in his own space, away from any physical contact with other alpacas. Despite all this, the criminals at DEFRA, aided and abetted by the British media, the members of parliament, and aided and abetted by the congenital liar Boris Johnson, who was in post as Prime Minister at the time in 2021. The baby angel Geronimo was treated as if his being in perfect health, his being perfectly innocent, his being perfectly safe was a liability. And none of the commentators in the British media has acknowledged that fact. So the baby angel Geronimo manifesto will cover the gap created by the lack of concern for the welfare, the safety of baby angel Geronimo the innocent. And it will be extrapolated and applied to protect other baby angels like Geronimo, both in his species and in the wider population of animals. And the standard of fairness, standard of protection will be tested by objectively applying the universal standard criteria, free from interference by the UK government or any government nominated or government controlled or government influenced agency or elements. The prominence given to the so-called hunt for the Clapham alkaline spraying Afghan refugee is remarkable, especially with today's Times newspaper repeating the completely unfounded line, well, the Times newspaper and the Daily Mail as well, being pushed by the proven crook and liar Robert Jenkins. I correct the name, Robert Jenrick. Jenrick was one of Suella Cruelar Fernandez's co-ministers in the Home Office. And Jenrick is saying that there is a connection. There is a connection between the criminal who sprayed the mother and her two daughters with chemical in Clapham on Wednesday, between his being an asylum seeker and his crime. Nothing could be further from the truth. If that were the case, then all the criminals that are currently on trial or have been incarcerated after trials and convictions would have been asylum seekers, but they're not. 99.9% of the criminals are British born and British bred. We shall be continuing on all these themes, all the evidence. This is being ended at 23 minutes at 19:26 hours GMT on Saturday, 3rd of February 2024.